Hello, I am Deb Coviello, the Drop In CEO, and I want to thank you as always for dropping in, where week after week I have the most amazing guests who share their insights and their journey with you. And hopefully, they provide you amazing insights and inspire you. And just know I do this podcast because I sincerely care about C suite leaders of today, even tomorrow, to help them navigate their challenges with confidence. And this week, I am so pleased to have on the show Shane Barker, who is the CEO and founder of TraceFuse, the first Amazon TOS compliant negative review removal system. And with over 25 years of marketing experience supporting Fortune 500 brands, Shane has been recognized as a leading influencer. His recent focus is helping Amazon sellers combat negative reviews through TraceFuse's innovative white hat solution. Shane, it is a pleasure. Thank you so much for dropping in on the show.
Yeah, Deb, thanks for having me. I'm really excited about the interview and us having a good conversation today. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, thank you. And I as well. I'm so much looking forward to getting to know you, sharing you with my audience. And to my audience, again, Shane reached out to me. He says, "Oh, Deb, your show is amazing." I said, "Oh, yes, of course it is." But again, just the same, I love networking, meeting new people, learning what their gifts are, but also their stories are very inspiring. And I love to share that with my audience. But without further ado, Shane, I'm going to just pass it back to you. And I'd love for you to share a bit about your backstory.
Absolutely. So yeah, once again, thanks for having me today. So yeah, I have a pretty interesting backstory. So I grew up in the restaurant industry. There was a restaurant called Chevy's Mexican Restaurant. There's only a handful left, but I started off as a busser there and ended up going all the way through management and actually ended up opening restaurants for them. So that was really one of the only jobs where I've actually worked for somebody. Learned a lot through that whole process. Would travel around. And it was awesome. I did enjoy. Didn't have a family or didn't have anything holding me back. So I was out on the road and traveling around. It was awesome, and obviously did a lot of traveling internationally too. I mean, it took me 10 years to graduate, not because I was failing classes. It's because I thought, this whole real world thing and jumping out in the real world, just I really wanted to go have some fun. And had my own businesses. One of my businesses, I used to own a bar in Chico, California, where Sierra Nevada is from. So that was I say Shane 1.0 at that point. We're probably Shane 4.0 now, but I've always done digital marketing online, SEO. Influencer marketing is one of the first people to talk about influencer marketing. In fact, I even created the curriculum over at UCLA so I taught at UCLA with Amanda. We created the curriculum for influencer marketing. So this was a number of years ago now. I lived in Sacramento at the time, and I would fly down once a week and go teach the youth of UCLA. So that was awesome. And once again, built websites, SEO being the main thing. And then I jumped in the Amazon space about 5 years ago. So, have done a lot of different things at a real estate company that we had about 150 employees. So I have I say decorated, but just a lot of things that I've done over the years. And now we're in the Amazon space and have another company outside of that we don't need to talk about today because we're gonna, kind of talk about this journey. But I'm excited to kind of explore and let everybody know what I've done, and I'm really hoping that hopefully some people can hear what I'm saying and resonate with what I've got going on, and make some of the decisions, maybe better decisions than I made. Right, my journey was great and it got me to where I'm at today. But my goal is to help people. I mean, I want to be able to let them know what the journey was, the good things I did, the bad things I did, and hopefully we can help them, go up to the next level.
Absolutely. And again, through your stories, if anybody's listening out there, hopefully one of them resonates and we can, share a simple truth, something that they can take away from that today. But, you talk about jumping around, but it's interesting. Is there a common thread that, yeah, it looks like I've been all over the place, but each and every one represented X, or here's how they fed my soul, or here is how they're all connected. I'm curious because sometimes people will say, well, I jumped here, I was only here for 18 months, etc. But at the core, are we being true to ourselves? Why does it really make sense, regardless of the fact that it looks like you've been jumping around?
Yeah. For me, I mean, jumping around was opportunities and most of the time, most of the businesses that I've had or looking to help people. Now, I can't necessarily justify opening a bar and saying that was helping people. I guess if they wanted to leave Soberville, then I was helping them on that journey to go to the next journey. But really, with most of my businesses online, I've been really helping people. I mean, like ShaneBarker.com is really helping people, educate people. I had at that point, I probably had 800 or 900 articles on there. And my goal when I started the website 15 plus years ago was really to educate, businesses and homeowners and people that were out there and saying, hey, what can we do to make, things better? We've heard about this thing called whatever, TikTok or this, and like, where do we get some
Hmm.
information there? And so Shane Barker was really the premise for that, of just being able to go and educate people. And the goal being, obviously, if they wanted to hire us, that would be awesome. But I really have always been on the education side of things. We jumped into trace views and helping sellers, remove negative reviews. The goal there is, obviously we want to be profitable, but the goal really is to be able to help sellers, because they're kind of in a situation where Amazon wasn't removing a lot of reviews that shouldn't have been on the product. And so we've done that. I also had another company, I can tell you about this, of where we would help people lower their property taxes. When I lived in California, you'd get a property tax bill, people would just pay it, not knowing that you can actually, negotiate, and you can go and look at comps. And so I've done a lot of different things, but really at the end of the day, I was trying to figure out, how can I do a service that makes me feel good because I'm helping people, and then how can I monetize that? And so as I go through this, I don't mean to jump to different areas, but it's just like with Amazon, it just was an opportunity where I had, customers that I was working with on more
Yeah.
direct to consumer space. And I said, hey, what are your pain points right now? And they said, Amazon and reviews. And so I said, oh, I could be able to figure that out. Now, I was humbled very quickly. I thought it was going to take a few weeks, a month or two. It took us 2 years to crack the code. So it was not, it was probably my longest journey of perseverance, and just saying, okay, I hope we're going in the right direction here, because I'm spending a lot of money. And so we spent a lot of time on that. But with those types of things, I do like a challenge. I mean, that's why I've always been the digital space, because there's always something new, new
Hmm. Hmm.
platform, new forums, new this, new softwares. So I've always really enjoyed that. So the stability of just staying in one place and doing one thing has always made me twitch a little bit. It's probably because I have like ADHD or something. So so I enjoy a journey, and I enjoy trying new things. And so I've always been kind of adventurous like that. So I think that's probably why it looks like, I'm going from here to here. But once again, you never know the opportunity that's going to be put in front of you through things that you're currently working on. And then another opportunity comes about. My biggest thing, and this has been, and some people on your audience will probably resonate with this, is just understanding which ones to go after and which ones not to go after. Because when I was young, I would go after anything and everything that I thought was an opportunity. And then all of a sudden I realized I'm putting in 10% on 10 opportunities. And so if you don't have a team, or if you don't do delegation, there's a lot of things that can make it so that you will be the bottleneck. And so I learned that very early on, that not all opportunities are good opportunities, and you have to really take a look at that. And so I've gotten a lot better. Shane, we talk about Shane 1.0 as we joke around about that, but was, once again, any opportunity, like, hey, if I've never built a website and you want me to build a website, oh, I'll figure it out. Yeah, yeah, $1,000, that's fine. And then next, it takes 1,000 hours. I'm like, man, I don't know if that really worked out to my benefit, from an ROI perspective. So I learned a lot of that through that whole process. And Trace Fuse was a situation where now, like I say, we just focus on negative reviews for Amazon sellers, but it takes every piece
Yeah.
of me and every medication that I could possibly take to not want to go and branch it out to be more consulting and more this and more that. So we're staying hyper focused on just removing reviews for sellers, and we're the only company that can do it right now. And we're, like I said, we have over 600 brands that we're working with, and we removed over 14,000 reviews. So that
Wow.
is, and there's 1.9 million sellers on the Amazon, just the US platform. So we are small, but we are the biggest company. We're the only company that can do this. And so I have to remind myself on a daily basis, like, hey, just keep focusing on this, because I have a thing of where I want to grow and do this and do that.
Yeah.
And, one of my past businesses, I tripled the size of it, but I wasn't making triple the money. Right. And so there's a lot of lessons that happen along that way, where it was great that I grew the business, but I'm taking on 3 times as much headaches and not making 3 times as much money. So I finally realized, like, and I had 100, that was for one of the real estate companies that I was doing, helping people that were put in bad loans. And I mean, we had, as I said, I had 130, 150 employees. And so, I realized that going bigger is not always better. And that's, I think, in our minds as CEOs, we always go, oh, well, for me anyways, I was always got to do better, got to get on more stages, and I got to work more hours, and I've got to do this. And it's like, finally, I'm like,
Mm-mm.
wait, what am I going after here? Right. I mean, like, what is, like, work-life balance, which I know that's always kind of a cliche thing to say, but I was working, 18, 20 hours a day, like easily.
Yeah.
Overweight, energy drinks, like all kinds of stuff just to keep going. And it's like, I mean, I'm going to have a heart attack at a certain point. Now I'm obviously a lot better shape and I, do life work-life balance. But at that time, man, it was really a struggle for me to not go more and go harder and do
Right.
this. And so,
Right.
and sometimes that benefits you and sometimes that burns you out and can put you in danger's way. So I've learned a lot. This is what we're on to talk about today is that journey and what made it so I didn't put myself in bad positions or did put myself in bad positions and how I got myself out of them, whether it be health wise or business wise or growing businesses. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's been fun.
Yeah, it's a tremendous lesson that you've shared here because, again, we are indoctrinated into a hustle culture, and that's
Mm,
how we're rewarded. And so, again, it's kind of that hamster wheel or that carrot that they dangle in front of us. So, I've talked a lot about this on the show here that kind of, I don't know if it's a few gray hairs or a few wrinkles or what have you, but don't let something terrible happen to you before you reevaluate your life and say, is it all worth it? Again, the entrepreneurial spirit or putting yourself out there to see what sticks and how you can help, yes, have at it, but it may not be sustainable over the long haul. Now, I want to come back to the work that you're doing. I actually have to look up the person's name. I interviewed somebody who also plays in Amazon, and the other one, another pain point is when people are put in the penalty box for some reason under certain
suspensions.
suspensions, and then these people don't know how to get out of it, and maybe it was a technicality. So again, there is value in services for even people, again, anything that keeps you from being an entrepreneur. I might even want to connect you with this person because if you're sent into the penalty box, it is very painful to get out. And again, just trying to be an advocate for those sellers.
Yeah, I mean and suspension things there can be very serious because that either can be like with what we do with reviews, there's some parallels with the suspension thing because
Right.
our goal is to obviously, people that get suspended, then they're going to go to somebody to get them unsuspended. Sometimes that's valid suspension, sometimes it's not. I mean, Amazon can flag you for something
Hmm.
that, or a competitor can come and say, hey, this person's selling chemicals in their thing, and then you get flagged, and then it's 1 month of trying to, let Amazon know that, hey, you're really not, that's not the situation. So with what we look at is once again reviews that violate Amazon's own guidelines that mention competitors pricing, cussing, FBA related stuff, but then
Yeah,
also fraudulent stuff. So if anybody comes and attacks you, which that happens on Amazon where somebody has a
it's a
buyer's
shame.
account and they come and they'll attack you and they'll attack you right around Christmas or Prime Day, whenever you'll be making your money. And the same thing happens with
Wow.
suspension. Sometimes it's legit. And then other times it's like, hey, if somebody comes in and gets you suspended on December 1st and then you get
Yeah,
unsuspended on January 1st, guess what? You just lost out on the biggest time of the year. So that is, suspensions are a big, big thing because it can be, once again, could be valid or not valid, but it doesn't matter. You've been suspended. So now you have to go in and show paperwork. You have to do this. You have to go get unsuspended. And there is some strategies that people use more black hat and stuff that are, not you're not a good person if you're doing these types of things and attacking each other. And we see
sure.
that a lot on the Amazon space, higher in some
So,
categories. So, it's kind of crazy.
yeah, so I want to just go a little bit more into your company because I'm curious about a couple things. So again, the reason why you're interesting is again, it's about your journey, and there's so many things that you talk about that are helpful. But also there may be people, because again, some of us have side hustles. Some of us who may be listening may be selling on Amazon. So I actually think this is a really cool conversation. But the first question I have is, tell me about the name of your company, Trace Fuse. What's the origin
Yeah.
of that? What does it mean?
So it's funny. So we came up with trace views, just the idea of being able to tracing down, maybe people that have been, originally it was going to be all like fraudulent stuff. And so we were really looking at like how we're going to go trace down the reviews and really be able to make a decision whether they're fraudulent reviews or whether they're against Amazon's guidelines. So that was really the premise of why we came up with trace views. That was the name that kind of fit with us. Once again, tracing being more like investigative, going after
Mhm.
reputation, like, going and making sure that we're figuring out what's going on there and then going and cleaning that up for them. So that was the kind of the premise of why we called the company Trace Fuse. And once again, it's kind of taken off, and we've gotten to an amazing place where now we have so many referrals and so many people that refer people to us because we have a good name in the industry and we did a good business. So I'm very proud of that as a business owner because that's very difficult, especially in the review space, because there's a lot of emotions and there's people that products that get attacked and Amazon's not listening, and we really want to go in and be that liaison to be able to help those
Right.
sellers. So as I say, I do enjoy money, but I really, really enjoy sellers that come to me and say, hey, I was at a 4.2, you got me to a 4.3, and that, made a difference for me because these
Okay.
businesses is how they feed their family, right? Like, and I take that very seriously.
So this the way cool, way cool. So is the entry point of a seller to come see you only when they're experiencing a pain point and they're getting the negative reviews, or is there any way that they could potentially start working with you proactively? So just talk to me about the pain or opportunity for which somebody says, I got to do something about this, either proactively or reactively. How does that
Uh,
work?
that's a great question. So, at the end of the day, I always encourage everybody to be more proactive than reactive because the problem with reactive is you have a problem on December 1st, and then all of a sudden we're file cases with Amazon. It can take days, it can take weeks, it can sometimes takes months to get reviews removed. Well, guess what? Now you're in January and February, you just lost out on the main season, right? Of where, in theory, that's where you're making most of your money. So what we have is we actually have a monitoring system as well. So if you're a newer company and you said,
Right.
hey, I don't, I'm in the supplement space, I don't want to get attacked. And if I do, I'd like to be proactive. Well, guess what? If you signed up with us today, we monitor those ASINs. And so when somebody comes in and attacks that ASIN, our system will detect it in a few days, and a few days later, we'll be filing a case if it's against Amazon's guidelines or something fraudulent going on there. So you don't, if you don't have a lot of critical reviews, if we start monitoring now, you're not going to have a hefty bill, right? Because we're a performance-based company. They only pay for reviews being removed. So now would be that perfect time. The
Mm,
monitoring, we don't have a monthly charge for that. That's so there's no fee there. So once again, we're continuously monitoring. The issue can become is that if you're a big seller, not saying don't reach out to us, but if you have 10,000 critical reviews, we have to figure out how many reviews we need to remove to be able to get you up to the next star rating to increase sales. So
right.
that could be a little trickier. There's going to be a little bit of a higher amount that you're going to have to pay to be able to go through all those reviews. If you would have started 5 years ago, which you wouldn't have seen us 5 years ago because we were R&D in it, but if they would have started then guess what? We can get those reviews removed as they come in, and it keeps the profile clean for them. So I would always recommend to be proactive over reactive because reactive is like, oh crap, hey, can you make miracles happen? And of course, I sometimes we can make miracles happen, but the other thing is that we are relying on Amazon to remove those reviews, right? So we plead, we file cases, but there's a timeline that it takes in regards to how long it'll take for the reviews to get
Okay.
removed.
So, just a curious question. So, you service the customers, you're direct to consumer in terms of providing this service. But I'm curious about your business relationship with Amazon because obviously you have to know the rules and regs in order to play and affect the fix or the correction that you are doing on behalf of them. But I'm wondering, what is your relationship with Amazon? Because it almost feels like it could be very symbiotic. Like, hey, they want to be seen as a valued partner and they want to work with sellers to make sure that they have the best ratings they can. Are you competing? Are you aligned? Are you potentially purchasable by Amazon?
Yeah. I
Talk
mean,
to me about this.
hey, they have a little bit of cash. I would be willing to have a conversation. If anybody from Amazon is listening, I love to be purchasable. That's my, I mean, I'll go get that tattooed somewhere if I need to. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, we're symbiotic, right? I mean, we're
Okay.
definitely because Amazon has their own systems that they're constantly making better, where they're saying millions of reviews. I think I don't know if that's yearly or when that is, because obviously they have certain things that things get either AI or machine learning or whatever that comes in and will stop certain reviews at a certain time. So we're really kind of team B, right? Where if those reviews, some of those get through, then great. Then Amazon doesn't detect them. Then we're kind of the second part where it's going to come in and we say, hey, Amazon, really the way we look at it is we're doing the detective work, right? We're going to go in and say, hey, this got past your first line or second line or three lines of defense. This is still, there's a cuss word in the review. So, hey, this is something I want you guys to take a look at. We'll file a case with Amazon, and then Amazon will look at that and say, yeah, we shouldn't have the F word in a review. I think that makes sense. So let's go ahead and get that removed. So, to us, I feel like we do a lot of the heavy lifting after the reviews have already been filtered through and figured out, and so we kind of take that on from there. So in my opinion, in my eyes, we're like brother and sister, like we're friends, and we work really well
Okay.
together, and we have sellers that will ask us like, are our accounts ever going to be suspended for this? And it's like, no, because Amazon has their rules. We're just helping them say, hey, you missed somebody, kind of got through the system here. Can you
Very
get this
cool.
review removed? Yeah. So they say absolutely. So it's a little bit of a nuanced process, but it's worth it in the end.
So I'm curious about the future of Trace Fuse and the future of Shane Barker because you obviously shared your history of jumping here and jumping there and having multiple balls up in the air. Now, how long has Trace Fuse been in existence? Is it at a level of maturity? Is it growing? What's the next step? And
Yeah.
is this what's next for you? Because you're so dynamic and I understand the value of what you do, but I can't believe that, okay, this is going to be just you. What's next?
No, you sound like my wife. She's like, "You gonna be able to retire?" And I go, "Yeah, I'll be retired one day." She goes, "No, you won't.
Yeah,
No, you
not
won't."
my
I just
husband either. He can't. He's got to keep
Yeah,
working.
man, I'm in always fifth and sixth gear. It's hard for me to get down to first and second gear. So yeah, I mean, right now Trace Shoes is going nuts. We've been around for about 5 years. The
Yeah.
first 2 years was like once again, I was very humbled by the opportunity and realizing that I thought we were going to be able to start moving reviews for clients within a few months. Didn't happen. Obviously, we took 2 years, but as I said, the last 3 years, 3 years plus now, we're sneaking up probably just over 3 years. And we've, like I said, we work with over 600 brands, some really, really big brands as well. And like I said, we've removed over 14,000 reviews, and we charge $250 for every review that we remove. So, if you do 250 times 14,000 reviews, we're not doing too bad. So this year we've increased our sales by about 30%, and I'm the only salesperson. So I do all of the calls myself. And the reason why I do that is because I
Wow.
really enjoy talking with sellers and understand what their pain points are, how we can make the software better, how we can, we have a brand new a calculator that we're coming out with, one that's they can go in and they can put in their ASIN, which is like a SKU, and they can go
Mm.
see how many reviews that potentially need to be removed. And we have a brand new, we're calling it the super calculator. I don't know if that's going to be the official name of it, but that's coming out in another week or two, where they can actually put in their inventory numbers and put in the ASIN and put in what their revenue is, and then we'll pump it out and say, hey, if we removed 8 of these reviews as an approximation, that's going to cost you $2,000. This is the point where you break even. And after 6 months, you'll make this amount of money. So it makes them be able to make a better educated decision on where they're going
Yeah.
to be spending their money. So I'm always trying to make it so that, once again, I'm going to say this again. I do enjoy money, but I don't want people to just spend money with us and not have an idea of what that potential outcome is going to be. So I'm trying to educate them as much as possible because I'm trying to mitigate the risk, right, of like what that's going to
Yeah.
look like. And so anything I can do to be able to help them and make them make the right decisions, once again, because that's how they feed their family and that's how they're going to grow their business. And so I want to offer them any kind of tools I can to have them make a better decision from there.
You know what I love about your messaging, and I know you're messaging, you're a marketing person, but when you get down to the core of, I just want to help them feed their family. That's the soulful, purposeful work that you're doing. You may provide a technical solution as an enabler, but I just want to make sure people can feed their families, sit down with their families, enjoy time with their families, which is so similar to my brand, because I too try to help reduce the pain, reduce the risk, so people don't have to work as hard and spend more time on themselves, family, friends, and community. That's why I like you.
No, and I appreciate that, and and for me that is really important because one of the reasons we started Trace Hughes is not only just to help sellers, but I've also had businesses where our businesses have been attacked online, and I also know the feeling of that, especially if it's like an ex-employee or something like that. Like it's very
Mm.
disheartening, and so and I don't know if consumers really understand when they write reviews. Like some people write reviews, that's awesome. Like I don't think you shouldn't write reviews. But like if you really slam a business, a restaurant, or something like that, you really have to think about the repercussions of that. If you had a terrible experience and you just want to let the world know, I'm not saying don't write reviews because I think they're important in this whole process. But what we were looking at is one's reviews that shouldn't be there, right? Because they're against
Yeah.
Amazon's guidelines or it's a competitor or something like that, where we're trying to even the playing field. As we talked a little bit about earlier, if it's a review that you just don't like, but it's true, then it's true. Like, I mean, you have to
Yeah.
look at that and self-reflect and say, hey, this is constructive criticism. How am I going to make my product better? That is very important in you making your new product and iterating and going in a different direction. Or maybe it's just one person that says that, and maybe it's nothing to focus on. But if 5 people say there's an issue with XYZ, then no, I need to think about, okay, this is how do I educate them on how to use the product? Is that going to be a pamphlet? Is that going to be a video? How do I make it better? So if you get negative reviews, it's not always a bad thing. It feels that way because I always tell people it feels like somebody's attacking your baby because it is your baby. I've had plenty of businesses, and anytime somebody says something bad about my business, it can be an hour or two that I'm in a whirlwind of like, oh, that's not true, and this, that, and the other. But it's like, all right, let me step back a little bit, take a look at this and figure out how I can make things better, how I can make it better for this consumer. What do I need to do?
So do you do that in addition? You talk about the reactive work of removing the negative reviews. You got a proactive monitoring model over here. But to your point, when you say, well, yeah, they could have improved their business model or presentation or whatever, do you also provide consultation or for a fee on how they can improve themselves as just a business owner?
So I probably should, but once again, we talk about the Shane with ADHD. I will. I'm trying to focus just on the review thing because once again, we have a very unique opportunity where we're the only company that's had anything remote success that we've had. I mean, there's nobody even close to us. There's companies that can do ones and twos here and there. So my goal is we talk about Xability and people wanting to buy your business. My goal is to sell the business one day. I mean, for sure. I mean, I definitely want to do that. That's the reason why I'm building this thing up. If we find the right person that would take it on and take care of my babies as much as I've taken care of other people's. So the goal is for an exit one day, and my thing is as long as we're doing business the right way and good things are happening there, then
Okay.
I'm a happy camper.
So you talked about early years of this, that it took you 2 years versus 2 weeks to really get something viable out into the market. And so that's certainly a lesson learned. But again, you've been in and out of businesses multiple times over the years. I'm curious about, how have you grown as a person? Again, you got the energy, you got the entrepreneurial spirit, but incrementally you have to learn, like, I need to know that the next opportunity where I'm at the helm, I need to do more of this or less of that. I'm curious about your growth through this entire process because there's valuable lessons that others can learn here. Even if you make a mistake, you've learned something and how do you apply it to move on? So, talk to me about a few other challenges and what have you grown from?
Absolutely. So I think the biggest one being, as we talked about a little bit earlier, is just, bigger is not always better, right? I mean, you can triple the size of your business, and I just brought on 3 times as much headache, but not as much revenue. So that's a big one. The other thing is you don't need to keep up with the Joneses, right? I mean, you can figure out, well, at what point you're going to be happy. Like for me, and I've always kind of fought with this, is like it's like, you know, being a consumer and buying stuff, and like, hey, do I need 3 cars? Do I need 4 cars? Do I need 4 houses? Do I need this? And a younger Shane was like, oh, I got to be a millionaire by this point. I've got to do
Yeah.
this. Like, oh, but and then Shane, I think COVID was a thing for me where I just kind of looked around and said, wait a second, like, I think I got to slow down a little bit, right? I got to really enjoy this because
Yes.
I love my son to death, but I'm just going to leave him all kinds of money. And then what am I going to do? Like, just be in a coffin? That sounds terrible. I've, all kinds of cities and countries that I haven't visited. Like, hey, what about, making it so that we go have some fun? And so that talk about that work-life balance is really, really important. The other thing is too, is like, understanding, if you want to start another business, like one of the businesses, the real estate one that I had 130, 150 employees. My company now has 8 employees. So what I also learned was, hey, I don't need to have these crazy, crazy big teams. I would rather have a smaller team that is amazing, that we incentivize it and good things happen. Team gets bonuses, they're all paid very well, they love working for you. That's what I realized, is that I don't ever want to have that huge of a team again. I want to have a team that we incentivize them on good things that they do and the way they treat our customers. And then that's very valuable, right? Because that's, to me,
Yeah.
that's where when you people really, truly, truly care. So having tons and tons of employees, which was great and great learning lesson. I mean, I learned a lot about just everything. But my goal is like any business that I start now, I go, okay, not only looking at profitability, but how can I scale this thing, especially with AI and that. I mean, we use AI with
Mhm.
trace shoes. There's so many things that you can do that we would have to hire people. Now you can, have these processes and you can build this out and build out great prompts. And guess what? You can
Yeah.
you can grow your business and not have to have tons and tons of employees. So anyways, that was been a learning
Yeah.
lesson for me, is that you don't need to go big and bad, and you don't need 100 employees. You can still have a great business and a
Mm,
highly profitable business and not have tons of employees and tons of people that can, because then what you're doing is you're working on your business, you're working in your business, not on your business, and
I know.
that's common.
Yeah, and this so resonates with me because I've worked for large corporations and they have a lot of benefits and resources. If I have an IT problem, I just, enter a ticket and they're showing up at my desk. And when I started my own business, I said, "Where's my IT person?" And I look around and there's not there. But
Oh, it's
I
me.
often drop into these small and medium-sized companies. They don't have a lot, but they got a lot of heart and soul, and they're agile and they can turn on a dime. And yeah, they're resource constrained, but there is something so valuable about having a high performing small team who is just trying to provide great services, great assets, and they're just great to work with. So again, little plug out there if you are small and medium-sized businesses, Deb Coviello is your drop-in CEO. Okay, enough of that commercial. So back to you. I want to know something about Shane outside of work. You talk about a significant other, you talk about a son. Tell me a little bit about the other side of Shane when you're not working, those 4 to 6 other hours in the
Yeah, yeah.
24 hours.
When I'm sleeping, yeah, for
Yeah.
those 3 hours. Yeah. So I've been married for almost 20 years. Well, together with my wife for 20 something years. We've been
Hmm.
married for 19 plus. We have a 26-year-old, my son Mason, who does commercial real estate. So I'm very proud of him
Wow.
for that. He's been doing an amazing job. We got two beautiful dogs. We got Bailey, which is a pity pointer mix, which is kind of the heart of the family. She's just an absolute angel, best dog ever. And then I have Bella. She's a husky. She's a little on the crazier side, but she's on her medication and stuff. So she'll be normal one day, hopefully one day. As long as you don't open the front door and not expect for her to run out, then life is good. So that's kind of the family. Got originally grew up in Sacramento, California, live in Reno, Nevada now. So been out in Reno for about 2.5 years. Really like it out here. We're big outdoors people, so we like to go
Hmm.
hiking and all that kind of stuff. But that's where, going from my 18 to 20 hour a day schedule, which was, soul crushing. And now I'm doing, probably about 7, 8 hours and, just being a lot more effective and efficient on how I do things than I was.
Mm.
Because, working more hours doesn't mean that you're more effective, right? You have to look at
I
that. That's when
so
I would do
agree.
consulting for businesses. That's what we would look at is like, where do you spend your time? Like, oh, I don't spend any time on Facebook. Okay, cool. We'll just go ahead and document that for the first week. And you're like, oh, I spent 6 hours on Facebook. You're like, and how was that time used? Like, how many more customers you getting? Like, oh, okay, I'll quit watching cat videos on YouTube. So you're like, yeah, and that's okay, right? We just understand of like, how do we be more effective during those times?
Yeah, and I love what you said because I've also gone through a bit of a transition, and you're one of a few podcast guests that I'm going to be having going forward. So you're a special guest here today because I'm going to be simplifying my life a little bit, working a few hours left. I'm not retiring. I'm not dead yet. I still have a lot to do, but it's funny. I recently went and visited my son and daughter-in-law in North Carolina, and just had a lovely weekend. I didn't even bring my laptop, and I just enjoyed just being. And then even when I got back from that weekend, I didn't go crazy into my laptop, but instead I said, you know what? I'm going to stop doing this. I'm going to stop doing that. I'm going to reinvest in my activity level. I'm going to start shutting the laptop down at 5. I'm not going to take any appointments till 1 in the afternoon so that the morning is for me to invest in my business, invest in myself. So again, to those of you out there, again, we live in a hustle culture, especially in the US, but just reflect now. Don't be that person that is forced to slow down due to illness or what have you. Start taking incremental steps now. Where can we simplify? Where can we automate? What can we delegate so you can
Yeah,
enjoy time with the pets, the family?
yeah.
We've got one short
It
life. Yeah.
It's important, and and as I touched on earlier, COVID was a thing for me where I
Yeah.
realized that it's like, man, that's way out of our control. There's nothing we could have done, and like, what does life look like, right? So it's like, wait a second, like I don't know. We never know when our time is. Not to get all dark, but we don't know when our time is, and so you have to look at this and say, hey, am I enjoying life, or am I just working to die? Like that just doesn't resonate with me, right? Like I wanted to enjoy and have fun, and you know you never know when it's your time or somebody else's time, and so you have to really value that time. So I've flipped that on my head from the 18 to 20 hours to going, okay, how can I spend more time with family and friends and stuff like that? And that really opens it up. So when it's business time and when I'm working on stuff, I'm hyper focused on that. And when I'm not, I'm not. So I have to tell you about the laptop thing, which is funny from you not bringing your laptop. So my wife and I, we would have this internal thing. She's like, hey, you going to bring your girlfriend on vacation? And we would have people that would hear it. And they're like, you have a girlfriend? And my mom would be like, I was raised, my mom is a very strong woman. So she would almost want to slap me in the back of my neck. You have a girlfriend? I'm like, it's my laptop. So my wife would call my laptop my girlfriend. And so we would go on vacation but not realizing them was just our vernacular we use. And so she'd be like, oh, you're going to bring your girlfriend on vacation? I was like, yeah, I'm probably going to bring her. And people are like, are you guys swingers? Like, what is going on over there? So it's funny. So when I don't bring my laptop, like that's like now I don't, but that was a big deal. The first time My wife's like, "You doing okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, my fingers are shaking a little bit, but I think I'm going to be okay. I think overall I'll be okay." But that's one of those things, it's like if you bring your laptop, then you're thinking about work, you're doing these types of things. It's hard to be present when you have other things that are pulling you in these other directions. But if you know your start time is like, I don't start until 9 a.m. in the morning, right? Like, because guess what? I want to have my walks. I want to have my dinner, or my breakfast with my wife. And that's important. Back in the day, I would take a call at 3 a.m. I'd take a call at 4 a.m. I would do a call at 9 p.m. It didn't matter to me. And then finally I realized, wait a second, like, great, I could grow my business that way. But what if I just hyper focus and said, these are my hours?
Yes.
Sometimes I'll break out or break, I mean, if it's, clients in Dubai or something. But the idea of it is like, wait a second, this is really my time. And overall, that me not starting until 9, I mean, I still get messages in and Slack stuff, but at the end of the day, it's like I'm so much because I'm rejuvenated. I've gone on my walk, I've
Yeah.
gone out and gotten some sun, I've had a great breakfast. Like there's no better way to start your day. I used to be like, oh, get up at 5 a.m. and I've got to, rise and grind. And it's like there's a certain point where your body will go, hey, I was getting sick all the time, anyways. But
Mm.
yes, yes, work-life balance, very, very, very important. You'll be a lot more stronger as a CEO, as an individual, and people will like you better. I promise you.
Yeah, I love the fluidity of these conversations. So, again, to my listeners a bit, I always like to shine a light on my guests because obviously they're an owner, they're a leader, they're trying to make a difference in the other people's lives. But I so enjoy getting to know the rest of the person and your life lessons. And there's always a common ground here is that we're just trying to have our best life. It's a matter of like just defining what that is and on our terms versus letting life controlling us to the best
Yeah.
of our ability. But what I would love to do now is that again, we're going to stay in touch. My listeners, again, I if you know of somebody or are you also selling on Amazon, there's a great opportunity to connect with Shane Barker and his company Trace Fuse. Think about it, connect with him on LinkedIn, look up his work. But Shane, I want to pass the mic back over to you and want you to share a bit anything else that you want to say to my audience and perhaps ways where people can connect with you and learn about the amazing value that you provide.
Absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate that. So, yeah, anybody can reach out to us. Obviously, the company is tracefuse.ai. So it's TRACEFUSE.ai. So that's going to be the Amazon side of the business where we help sellers. So if you have anybody, we also have some free tools there. They can go and try to file on their own and actually use our tech for free. So and we try to offer a lot of value there. And if they can't figure it out and do it on their own, then obviously we can help them. And then shanebarker.com is my personal blog that I've had. And our services are mainly just SEO stuff. We stopped doing SEO for a few years to kind of see the AI thing. We put a new strategy together and we put it towards Trace Fuse to try to, to eat our own dog food. And we were number one for all of our keywords. So we're doing an amazing job of the SEO side of things. So if anybody needs any help with that type of thing, on the websites or anything to generate more leads online, that's more of a Shane Barker thing. But I'll give you my email at Trace Fuse. It's shane@tracefuse.ai. And then obviously, if you want to reach out to me on the Shane Barker side, it's just shane@shanebarker.com. So you can reach out there, follow me on LinkedIn. I've got a crazy LinkedIn right now. It's going I mean, I have over 30,000 followers on there. So go over there, say hi, follow me. I'll follow you. We'll have some fun.
All right. Well, sounds wonderful, Shane. I just so appreciate just this casual conversation, getting to know you, and what you do is just so aligned with what I do, is just helping to support people navigate these challenges with confidence. Again, with Trace Hughes and Shane Barker, it's a great deal. So I just want to say thank you for being a wonderful guest. Thank you for dropping in, and I wish you well, much success.
Thank you, Deb.